Welcome to Firefighter WTF, where the fireground meets unfiltered reality.
We break down the toughest calls, biggest lessons, and real firefighter experiences without the PR spin.
From our studio in beautiful Daytona Beach.
Hello and welcome as we kick off the Firefighter WTF podcast. It is July 4th, and we are kicking off on a date that I hope I can remember as we go forward. This is episode 1. So we decided to release on July 4th, which is the birthday of our country, and it's a pretty fitting date because it's easy to remember. So we can remember when the first episode hit the air, and every year you'll go to a cookout to celebrate it, whether you know it or not. So today we're going to cover a few stories about everything from what July 4th means in the fire service and why it can be one of the busiest days. If you're new on the job, you're going to find out July 4th is really special. We're going to have a quick update on the tragedy out of Ohio, an update on the funeral, information for the 2 chiefs that were murdered by a 20-year-old POS. And what's next for the crews and the families that was impacted. A little later in the show, I'm going to walk you through examples of how AI made a boo-boo in an incident that involved a firefighter, but really why that matters. And we're going to study the most recent case that occurred which was out of Indianapolis. And before we wrap up, we're going to talk about Anne Burrell. She is a celebrity chef that was known for a very distinctive silver blonde hair, had a little swoop in it. She was a great friend of the fire service and a supporter of the Leary Firefighters Foundation, which does incredible work across our country. And then finally, at the end, I'm going to take a moment of the episode for a few thanks and shout outs for some folks that inspired me to launch this podcast. So let's get started with what we're looking at. July 4th.
Every July 4th, fire departments across the country brace for the same storm. Fireworks, cookouts, and preventable fires. It's the busiest single day of the year for many crews. Predictable, exhausting, and completely avoidable. The risks are everywhere. Fireworks accidents that torch homes, wildland fires ignited by bottle rockets, overloaded circuits from backyard lighting setups, and cooking fires that flare out of control. Illegal fireworks in tight residential neighborhoods only make things worse. If you look back, it's clear this chaos is nothing new. In the late 1800s, cities like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Chicago saw fireworks get so popular that local governments passed some of America's first fire prevention ordinances. By the 1870s, horse-drawn steam engines were parked near waterfronts and public parks every 4th of July, just waiting for the inevitable blazes started by firecrackers and Roman candles. Through the 1920s and 1940s, the rise of consumer fireworks forced citywide bans during the holiday week. Even then, it didn't stop the injuries or the fires. From the 1970s on, the National Fire Protection Association and U.S. Fire Administration have tracked July 4th as the undisputed champion for fireworks-related fires in America. Thousands of incidents every single year, and it's never slowed down. Today, modern fire departments try to get ahead of the madness. They ramp up public education campaigns, burn bans, and social media blasts. They pre-position extra crews on wildfire ridges and bring in overtime staffing because they know the calls are coming. Despite all that, thousands of people will still end up in hospitals, and entire neighborhoods will watch their homes burn because someone couldn't wait for the professional show. If history has taught us anything, it's that fireworks and carelessness will keep firefighters working overtime.
This isn't your normal episode. This is a Firefighter WTF podcast. Special report.
All right, we have some information updating the funeral services for the 2 battalion chiefs killed in the line of duty. The engineer, as of the taping of this, is still in the hospital in serious condition, undergoing a few surgeries. Our thoughts are with him and his family as they try to get through this extreme time in their lives. For Battalion Chief John Morrison, the celebration of his life will take place this Thursday, July 10th, 2025. The following day in the same location will be the celebration of life for Battalion Chief Frank Harwood on July 11th of 2025. Conveniently, both are going to be held at the Hagedon Event Center on South Floating Green Drive. The information for the funeral, if you're looking from your department end, I suggest you look at firefightersclosecalls.com. That's the home of the secret list. They will have the information on their website, and you can subscribe to their email service if you want the latest information on things that do happen in a fire service. A great resource there. They're doing both events at the same location on different days, so each chief's family and friends can mourn and gather together to celebrate their lives and share not only their grief, but the good stories that make us laugh. Donations will be made across the nation in their honor. It is suggested you use the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters. They have a fund set up. It is the IAFF.org/Idaho-LODD. LODD being for the line of duty. As we look at the Idaho, some folks may be a little geographically challenged, even hard to find some of the states in the western part of the United States. This is not one of the many rectangles they have. This is the unique shaped state of Idaho, home of the potatoes that we all love. If you go to the lower section, you're going to see a dot, which is in the central southern part of Idaho, and then the closer up map on the right-hand side showing it's right off the water where the mountain is, where the POS started the fire, and things happen. Immediately after the Sheriff Robert Norris, stated that it was a total ambush. The firefighters didn't have a chance. It's a hell of a thing to think about when you first go out on a call, that someone has it in their mind that you're not even going to have a chance to do your job. The IAF General President Edward Kelly, in a statement, was, "No civilized nation should first responders be targets for violence. The IAFF is committed to making a dangerous job safer." Very, very good words, Ed, and thank you. Folks, nowhere, not in this nation, not in any nation, should someone be targeting the firefighters that are responding. These emergency responders are there to help. This is what they do. They show up to help people. And when you get a POS that decides to do something really crappy, bad things are going to happen. It's a heinous act, a heinous direct assault on our brave firefighters. I ask for all Idahoans to pray for them and their families. And this is from Governor Brad Little of the state of Idaho. And we'll go that one more and say not just Idahoans, but the entire nation. Chris Way, who's the chief, was talking about how he was sitting with one of the chiefs recently on their deck, cigars, and doing what firefighters do, talking and BSing, talking about the jobs we've done and the jobs we'll have in the future. And he said they talked about being fathers. We talked about being better leaders. We talked about being better firefighters. Folks, if you're not familiar with the fire service, that is what chiefs do. That is what firefighters do. That's what we all do when we get together. We tell stories and we try to get better. We try to learn. And it's a very, very emotional time when things like this happen. At this time, investigators believe the fire was intentionally set to draw us in, was an ABC News early report on the situation. So we look in southern Idaho, and we as a nation are in shock and mourn with them. When we respond, whether it's for a person that is sick, a person having chest pain, someone whose smoke alarm is going off and they can't find out why, we're still looking to help. When they went out and this fire is burning up a mountain and they're responding to it, they're thinking, how can we stop it? How can we prevent this from injuring people, making them flee their homes? How can we protect their property? This is what they do. This is what they train for. And when some POS shoots at them and kills them and injures them, it is not just wrong for them. It's wrong for us as a nation. We are better than this, much better. So we mourn with them, and we really do want to see this lead us as a country to be better people.
We're about in the middle of the Firefighter WTF Podcast. Proudly keeping the tradition of dark humor, strong coffee, and questionable decisions alive. Stick around, it only gets better from here.
And it will as we move on to one of our next segments. We're going to talk about something really interesting that I stumbled across researching the show. And so up front, I research using a lot of methods. I do use AI, specifically ChatGPT, to help me reference and look things up. It is very important if you use AI on yourself. Anytime you're doing research, ask it to cite where it's getting the information from, cite its sources. And this story is a perfect example of when I asked it to cite its sources, we had bad information. You'll see. It's actually kind of comical. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at this story and we're going to talk about kind of how it happens. But in the back end, it's about businesses. And in this case, it was a legal firm grabbing news, putting it on their website so people will click in. When I went to research this story, I saw that was listed as a source. I check all my sources. It wasn't a good source, and you're going to see why. But let's talk about the story at first. This is a Indiana firefighter that was electrocuted post-storm response. This occurred back in June on the 18th of this year, 2025. A 29-year-old Indianapolis firefighter was electrocuted while removing a burning limb with a chainsaw. The contact sent him 12 feet to the ground, where he was hospitalized in stable condition. He's since recovered to be discharged from the hospital, but it still created a bit of a story. So what I found is this firm puts this out, and in the fire service, we look to find out where this information is coming from. When we are examining it, you hope it's good. And in this case, if you were looking, the second you click onto the page for the story, you get repeated pop-up ads about, are you injured at work, workers' comp, because this is a workers' compensation kind of claim. This firefighter was injured at work. But it is to click you in, clickbait to get you in and move you around their website and possibly get you to enlist them to represent you. And I do believe it is very, very important if things happen to you to consult attorneys and get the legal system working in your favor. The more severe early, this is not about discounting that at all. It's very important. But what we're looking at is how they did it. So if you read the story, and for those of you that are listening to this and not watching it on YouTube where you have the video, the headline reads, "Firefighter shocked while responding to down power lines in Indianapolis." And the article is dated June 19th, 2025. So the day of the article is one day after, which would make perfect sense. But here's where it gets tricky. And I'm reading this as it is written. Officials said the firefighter, a 4-year-old Indianapolis Fire Department veteran, was using a chainsaw on the roof of the single-story house where he was shot. Then it goes on. And some of the other parts of the story, for example, it cites the 12 feet being the estimated drop and where the person landed in the backyard, somewhat accurate. However, kudos to the Indianapolis Fire Department on their extremely effective recoupment program, because this is a 4-year-old firefighter, according to this article. When you go to look up news, this is a great example of misinformation. The story is somewhat true. However, sorry to ruin everyone's illusion, there was not a 4-year-old involved. Indianapolis Fire Department is not actively soliciting 4-year-old children to become part of their department. I believe their starting age is somewhere between 6 and 8, where they like to begin the recruiting process. So no 4-year-olds were used nor harmed in the making of this article. But it does go to show you that sometimes people would gloss over that. But when you're looking at important stories, when things are happening to firefighters, especially us in the fire service, we tend to click on them. And here is one that is abusing that privilege. Clearly, there is not a 4-year-old involved. So to the legal firm, if you ever happen to watch this, please fix your website. And we at the representatives of the Firefighter WTF Podcast remind everyone, consider electrical lines energized at all times. It's safer to assume they're electric and energized and not a phone line or not energized, and you'll be able to go home. To the firefighter that got knocked off the roof helping out, man, we hope you're better. We hope you get back from this, and we hope you share your story with any firefighter that will listen, so you too can make a difference in a firefighter's life.
Today's We Talk Family segment is a tribute to someone who may not have worn turnout gear, but helped fuel the fire service from behind the scenes. Anne Burrell passed away on June 17, 2025, at the age of 55. You probably knew her as the celebrity chef with the wild platinum hair, lighting up our screens on Worst Cooks in America and Iron Chef America. But off camera, Anne was a tireless supporter of firefighters. For years, she partnered with the Leary Firefighters Foundation, raising money at annual challenge events and shining a spotlight on the real needs of the fire service. Anne's energy, generosity, and mentorship didn't just make her a star in the culinary world. They helped bridge the gap between two communities, proving that family and purpose come in many forms. We're grateful to the Leary Firefighters Foundation for sharing these images and allowing us to honor Anne's memory.
We looked at the Anne Burrell story as interesting because of her ties to the fire service, like through the Leary Foundation. You saw in the photos, she puts the gear on, she goes out, she does the job. It's good. It shows the interest in what she was doing. And here's someone, shows up on Iron Chef. Now she is in fire gear. That's pretty cool. But she also hosted a show called Worst Cooks in America. You often got to wonder if that wasn't inspired by hanging around people in the fire service. There's a lot of us who can cook. Some of us can cook phenomenally. I think I cook well. I'm not phenomenal. But we have some folks that we all know that if it comes to the meal at the firehouse and they want to cook, no thank you. So as we go for it with the show, I'm really looking at just being as open and honest we can about the fire service. We're going to talk about all the various aspects. As you know, it's got an interesting name of WTF. And that's a play on everything from where's the fire. You could even say in her case, what's the food? But as we go through and we talk about everything from work, train, finish, the most important thing is to finish, to close your careers out, and to retire, but also to learn from our mistakes and things that go on. This show, it took took a lot for us just to kind of get together to make this, but I want to make it go forward. I want to make it be successful. We're going to have guests going forward. Maybe not every episode, but we'll have some. But we're going to have very relevant topics as we go forward. But as you saw, somewhat of a news type idea so we can keep up on the most current events. And also, before we close out this first episode, I want to take a minute to recognize a few people whose work inspired me to finally hit that record button and launch this show. So my first shout out goes to somebody named Diane Jennings. A big thanks to Diane Jennings and her YouTube channel that does an amazing job of blending research, storytelling, and personality. Watching her show got me the idea of you can be entertaining when you do this. I also want to shout out to Juan Browne, who's over at the Bronco Leary channel, whose thorough incident breakdowns set the bar for clarity and professionalism. One thing I really like about what Juan does over on his show, and his show mainly deals with airplane and airline events or helicopters, anything that flies, is very fact-based and it's very good. So I actually hope to get him on the show as a guest because he at one point flew lead for we hope to get Juan as a guest on the show. He used to fly lead for doing airdrops over wildland fires. And I think that'll be an interesting aspect of a really odd side of the fire service not a lot of us think of. You know, here you are jumping in a perfectly good airplane and go flying right into a fire to show other people where it's at. So he's probably has some great stories and some really good insight for those of you who listen to the show and deal with the wildlands. Also to Shawn Ryan. The Shawn Ryan show is huge. It has a lot of followers, millions. And we really like his honest, raw conversations that can reach and impact people in ways scripted content never will. Shawn has spoken to presidents, vice presidents, all the way down to somebody who is in the mud, in combat, doing the job. Shawn speaks to them all, gets a lot of good information. You could spend lots of time over on his channel, and you're going to get some good information. Search through some of his subjects. He's had people on that I've followed to other podcasts. And that brings me up to someone named Julian Dorey. He has a great show, deep, unfiltered interviews that kind of bring out the best in a guest story. And what I really like what Julian does is he takes on folks that some are a little out there, some are not, but you have to be able to listen with an open mind to not only the most fact-based, but also some of the ones that are more conspiracy-based. Because we always know somewhere in the middle lies the truth. And it was really good. The ones have spoke about, if you haven't checked out their work, I really do recommend you go on there and give it a shot. They've each set a very good example of something I'm trying to do, and it helped inspire what you're hearing today. So I am Tom, the host and producer of Firefighter WTF. Please, if you're in a situation where you can subscribe, whether it's to the audio version. We're on all the podcast platforms along with YouTube. Thank you.